Welcome back to the Breakstone. I'm Jared Scott. We're getting ready for the beginning of our third round of Swiss here at the Meta Potion Northern California Circuit event in Santa Clara, California at Isle of Gamers. Our third matchup here today is going to be possibly a familiar matchup to anybody who watched the stream of ours from 2 weeks ago, the first one that was here, the first event from the circuit. We're going to have a rematch between Brian Liu and Brian Gerby, who are again two local players here, two regulars of Isle of Gamers. Brian Liu is a relatively recent addition to the game, but he took it all home last time around 2 weeks ago. Came in first. You probably saw his matchups, both in Swiss and in the top cut. So we're gonna see the two of them. We'll see whether or not they've been playing some variations on their decks, or if we're gonna see anything new from them. So let's look in on their match now.
7 first one. I haven't gotten still Earth predominantly. Yeah, sure.
All right, looks like we're getting ready to get started here. They've drawn their opening hands.
Oh, so discord's not as bad.
They're just working out some of the details here, making sure everybody knows what's going on before we get started. Deck placement and all that. Although we're not too strict on deck placement or damage, as long as it's clear to the opponent, then we're in good shape.
Start the clock.
Alright, getting ready for our opening play here. So Brian's looking through his options. I guess we got two Brians. Let's be clear here. Brian with a Y.
I'm sorry.
He's normally we're used to Y here being pretty quick on the play, but he's looking through his options. Maybe not quite the ideal opening hand, or it could just be that if he's made any adjustments to his deck since the last time, maybe he's still kind of figuring out what the optimal plays are. A combination of new deck and maybe not being as familiar with all the cards yet. So he's discarding. Okay, so he's discarding 2 lightning cards there to play Sage, which we've seen before. It's going to return a character back to your hand, so it's effectively cost 2 on this first turn here. So it acts kind of like a 2 CP backup for him in that sense. Later in the game, it's very good for getting back something specific that you want, but in the beginning of the game, it can definitely function as a 2 CP backup there for you. So now we got I here. He is discarding 2 for Guy, so we got early aggression here.
One card here?
Alright, passes back over there. So we've got the early aggression from Guy. We'll see what Y here, as I'm going to call him, has in response to that, whether he's got something that's got removal. I mean, with Lightning, you're always looking at the possibility of Odin, although he's discarded one, so that's definitely one less Odin in his deck. Guy is problematic for Lightning a lot of the time, and Ice because of the inability to dull him. So, I mean, you're looking at the other options to get rid of him if you're playing Lightning. Potentially the Alcid combo is kind of a prime target for that. So he's going to reduce him by 4,000 with the Black Mage. If he has something else to finish off damage there, then that will... And there's Fusoya, so that's going to be an effective answer to that. Gets 2 backups out on the field in exchange for getting rid of Guy, so that's kind of a tough series of events there for Brian with an I. Going to discard Alcid and a Jesse in exchange for Vincent.
Go ahead.
So we got, again, the early aggression here. He's choosing not to go with backups, but instead is going with forwards. So it's going to be kind of a game here of whether or not he... Nope, there's the Alcid combo. So we've got some quick plays going on here. But unfortunately, Brian with an I has not been able to kind of keep anything out there. He's getting outdone by this this Mono Lightning deck. Or sorry, not Mono Lightning. It looks like Lightning Earth. Daniel. It actually is a little bit too far over the discard pile. Yeah. So just keep it on the mat. Thank you.
Two Black Mage minus 4K power.
All right. Brian with the Y is going to attack with each one of these. He hits a Robon, which unfortunately is nothing out there. In response to the Alcid attacking, Brian with an I is responding with an Odin to get rid of that Alcid there. So he's going to prevent one of the damage. The Robon, unfortunately, with no forwards on the field, is not going to be able to do anything to either one of those. And then Y here is going to discard Cecil and dull two of those backups to play Guy.
Guy for guy.
All right, and then I responds with his own guy there. So we have a standoff between the two guys,
Deals a point of damage.
as well as the Onion Knight there. So he's going to attack in with that, and I chooses to take the damage there, flipping over a WRO member, which is not going to do any help. And okay, Y here has a response here. He's going to discard Rydia to do Titan on his own guy, so that normally they would have traded, but in this case, he's going to get rid of the other guy there that was blocking. I chooses to play a WRO backup at this point. Takes another guy as damage, as well as a Black Mage, and we are passing back to I's turn. And he's going to pass back to Y at this point. And flipping over a Kane, fancy little promo Kane there, and an Amon. We are up to 6 damage, and there's a Gipple providing 3 forwards out on the field there to none on I's side, and he doesn't really have the backups to play a lot, so he's going to need something, theoretically. Something like a Shantoto at this point would help, but that just requires you to have one. It's that sort of situation where you're looking at 3 forwards attacking you next turn. So you have to effectively be able to deal with all 3 of those. Otherwise, he's going to be taking that 7 point of damage. So it looks like he's considering discarding 2 for CP here.
This in like an hour before I came here.
Going through his options, he is going to play an Alcid, solo Alcid there. No follow-up to it. Y is going to discard 2, and that's going to be the match there. You can see they're looking at what cards were coming up here next, but that's going to be the match.
You need the backups. I don't know what happened. You just don't see any. Or you just
So that was interesting in that it was essentially a mirror match. Actually, both of them were playing Earth Lightning, so we saw a lot of the same cards happening between both of them there. We saw Guys, we saw Odins, we saw Alcids. In a mirror match, it's going to come down to what you actually draw, and it's going to come down to what differences there are between your deck. So anytime you're designing a deck, you do want to keep in mind what you would do if you're playing against the mirror match, and how you would get that edge there. Because without any other kind of way of thinking about that, then you're going to come down to which person draws the better cards or kind of has more effective answers. It's a little bit of a coin flip there. So it could easily have flipped either way depending on what was being drawn. So being able to play those two backups early to get rid of Guy was a huge swing in that game. The thing about Lightning is that they have lots of ways of getting things into play that are also doing damage at the same time. So we're talking about Al Cid, Onion Knight, we're talking about backups like the Black Mage from Opus 2, and the Fusoya, Zalbag, Adia. There's just so many cards that's kind of built into that element that they get tangible things on the field in addition to doing damage with it, which kind of helps separate it from a lot of, say, Fire's direct damage, which tends to be a little bit more transient. Tends to be in the form of summons or things like that. So yeah, it was an interesting matchup there. Hitting the Robon with nothing on the field was also a tough one for Brian with an eye. He couldn't keep anything out there. It was just a matter of what was available. He had one person had a lot of forwards, the other person with the kind of the answers to get rid of forwards. That's the other thing about Lightning, is that they tend to be very good reactively. They have cards that deal with the things that are already out there, so it's a situation where you'd want to play second and kind of frustrate your opponent by getting rid of the things that they play. So that was a very, very interesting matchup there. A good example of a mirror match and how things can happen when they're very even like that. And again, it just comes down to a coin flip sometimes. But that gets back to the idea of the best of one format and everything that comes along with that. Thank you for joining us here at the Break Zone and continuing to watch our event. We're gonna have an interview in a few minutes here in our Remove from Game segment. So I look forward to seeing you there. We will talk with Brian about his deck and what's changed in it since the last time we saw him here on the stream. And we will see you all shortly. Thank you for watching. Welcome back. We have the winner of our last match. This is Brian Liu. If you watched our stream a couple weeks ago, then you saw him take the whole thing down. Came in first, went undefeated, I believe, the whole day. That day?
That's right.
Yeah,
so, I didn't drop a single game, which was nice.
Yeah, so I think that ends up being like something like 11-0 or something the whole day, or something like that. Cause there's 5 rounds of Swiss, and then you have to win 6 games in the top. So yeah, 11-0. It's pretty impressive there. Yeah. So you're playing a variation of that deck, because last time around it was Mono Earth.
That's right.
So what kind of prompted your change this time around?
So this time around, so when I was playing against other people just to test, I noticed that there was sort of an issue with dealing with Mono Fire. Because Mono Fire is like pretty darn good against Mono Earth, as well as just any deck that really just like gets in there. Like Ice is not that difficult a matchup because you have guys, you have Cecils, you have things to sort of
responses to it. Yeah,
you have tools in that matchup, but like Fire just kind of just stomps all over Mono Earth a lot of the times.
Zande is not your friend?
Yeah, Zonde's not my fan. No. I hate that card a little less than I hate Winzidane. I hate Winzidane a lot, but
because Zonde's a good answer for Delita. If he's broken and you use him to target Delita, which is
right,
unless you pump Delita, it's just enough to get rid of him, and Zonde's already left the table, so it doesn't really matter that he would get broken. So that's definitely a little bit tough there. So I can see how Fire would be potentially problematic there. So you decided to go with Lightning in response to Fire there, or you wanted to just like kind of harness a little bit of that direct damage energy, or?
Well, sort of. It's like so I was playing against sort of some Lightning decks, and I saw that Lulu is actually a really strong package, right? It's not just a card. It comes with a package of cards that work really well together.
Yeah.
So so the package is like a lot of damage dealing stuff like Al Cid, Onion Knight, which is super efficient stuff. You have stuff like Black Mage, you have Fusoya, you have Sage as the sort of like the recurring sort of engine as well. So I was thinking combining, cutting the sort of I felt like what were the weaker elements of Mono Earth.
I'm gonna stop you saying. What do you think are the weaker elements of Mono Earth?
Vincent's Eufys are much weaker than they're probably the weakest card cards, and also Shantoto as well. I really don't like Shantoto. It's because
Yeah.
I mean, you know my theory behind it.
I know. Yes,
So
you and I
my,
have talked about this.
yeah, my theory behind it is if you're playing from behind, you should never be playing from behind ever. Like you should always be
But
winning.
in every matchup, someone's gonna be playing from behind.
Yeah, but so, like my philosophy is to get on board and stay on board a lot of
Yes,
the times.
yeah.
So playing from behind, playing with no cards on my board just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, it feels like adding lightning is supplementing the aggression that I think you want out of the deck, right?
Yeah.
Because it's helping to remove anything that either you maybe don't have the option to remove from combat, or just clearing the way so that when it comes to combat you can go straight through and there's nothing's blocking you anymore.
Right.
Because if somebody has a 1K Viking out, it's like, sure, you're gonna stomp it with Delita, but if they get the block with it, then Delita still didn't do any damage.
Right.
But it's very easy. You play something like a Black Mage and now the Viking's gone and the way's clear, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
So I mean, for me, it was more about stepping towards a more value-centric deck as opposed to it more so than Mono Earth is, because you get a lot of value with Young Ursula, you get a lot of value with Vincent Yuffie,
Yeah.
but what's more value than Young Ursula? Alcid Onion Knight. Like it's
Yeah.
that just screams value.
Yeah,
right?
I was talking about that at the end of the match there, that Lightning's the way that the element is designed has a lot of cards that still put something in play for you while doing an effect. So it's the sort of effects you would expect to see on summons, for example, but as an added bonus, you now have a resource generator, or you now have something that can attack or block or whatever.
Right.
And so it's kind of that does double duty, as you get to do something to your opponent, but at the same time you're also getting a tangible value out of it. Whether it's just going to be something that soaks up a blocker or does damage because there's nothing left in its way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's part of the design element, I think, of Lightning.
Yeah, and so at the core of the deck, it's still very much a Mono Earth deck. Like it still feels like a Mono Earth deck because you got instead of Young Ursula, you have Alcid Onion Knight as the main switch in, and then you just have better creatures as opposed to the Vincents. You have Amons and you have sort of more Alcid support. But you have the main core, which I think should be the real core of Mono Earth, is Delitas, and then the Guides and the Cecils.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the reason why those cards are really important is because those cards just straight up like poop on some certain matchups.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah, Cecil is something that a Golbez player never wants to see.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
Cecil, and also it pairs really well. It has Lulu synergies. It has
Yeah.
it has a whole bunch of different synergies
Right.
in the deck.
Right.
And Guy is just a really strong card that like Ice just can't beat that card.
Ice and then an opposing Lightning both get very annoyed by Guy, because Amon's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
Heat's not
exactly.
going to do anything.
Yeah.
So things like that. Yeah.
And I think that's something that people aren't really doing, is sort of putting tricks into their like Earth-based decks. Like I know that a lot of people aren't playing Golem. I know some people play Titan, but not a lot of people play Golem.
Yeah.
I'm playing the full set of 3 and 3. Right?
Okay. Yeah, because I think you were using two Titans before in the previous iteration. Is
Yeah,
that right?
and I didn't
so-
like it. I cut Mustadio for a third Titan.
I
That was
see.
the first
Yeah.
thing I did because
Got
I
it.
hated Mustadio.
Yeah. So how does it feel, having played a mono deck before?
Yeah.
Having two elements in the deck, has that affected much? Is there any times where you've had a less than ideal situation because of CP generation, or do you think that your balance in the current iteration of the deck is pretty good?
It's actually pretty awkward. There's a lot of times where I have to be more creative in how I deal with the situation on the board,
Yeah.
based on what my colors are, right?
Right.
So there's a lot more mathing to be done. You notice in the first turn.
Yeah, you had 3 lightning backups by the turn 2 or 3 or something like
Right.
that. No Earth, yeah.
Yeah, so the reason why it took so long is because I actually counted out all the things I needed to do that
Oh,
turn.
right, that first turn where you took.
Yeah. So I actually calculated every single step of the way, and I was anticipating if he plays a guy, then I do this and this. If he doesn't
Right.
play a guy, I have this response, right? And so it's it was really just like you really have to think out your turns. You have to be very careful because it's all about this deck's more about resource management, and the more that you waste resources, then you're going to lose because it's about maximizing your
Yeah, so it's about
resources.
your resources being more effective, or being it's more effective,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Getting more value out of them than your opponent's resources.
Yeah,
And that
efficiency
was-
is king in this game.
Yeah, we saw that in that match because we had him play the early guy, which you took care of pretty easily,
Yeah.
and then followed up with Vincent, also dispatched of Vincent pretty easily, and then the third guy later when you had where they would have traded, but then the Titan kind of won that one over. I mean, in that situation, the Titan almost acts like an Odin in a sense. Like it's you just paid 2 CP and managed to kill the other guy without losing anything else for it. So that's the sort of value I think we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Like I like how like Golem and Titans are basically 1 or 2 mana Odins, right?
Yes, yeah. As far as what the overall effect is of taking something out. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So
so you're happy with that? I mean, I guess you're 3-0 so far today?
yeah, I'm 3-0, and most of my games have been not close very much.
So how does it feel? I mean, you went 11-0 the last time around. Does it feel like the deck is running more efficiently this time?
It is. I feel like this deck is significantly stronger than the one I played last time around. Because the sort of the results show as well. I've taken much less damage than last time around, and I feel a lot more comfortable whenever I'm playing in terms of safety. Because like I just never feel like I'm ever being threatened at all.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is a sort of deck where you're not really in a position where you're forced to pressure them. You have the option to do that, but you're never ever forced to do so.
Got it.
10 minutes left in the round.
All right.
10
Well,
minutes.
thanks for joining us here on the Break Zone. Good luck with the rest of your matches today. With the way that things are going, I'm sure we'll see you in the top 8 somewhere. So yeah, good luck with the rest of the day and with how your deck's working.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for watching us here. We will be back with round 4 in a little while, and until then, take care.
Find out.